my name is Trina Pellegrini and welcome to Cooking Up Murder. So tonight I am going to do something super simple, super easy. It's been a super busy day. My husband was in the kitchen all day making eggplant parmesan. It's going to be phenomenal, but that leaves a little time for me to make dinner. So I decided I'm going to do something super simple, and that's turkey sandwiches. And of course, some wine because you know how much I love wine. So let's get started. I'm going to start making my turkey sandwiches. As always, recipe will be down below. Please like and subscribe if you like my channel. It is appreciated. So the story that I'm going to tell you tonight is about a woman named Dixie Lynn Shanahan. Actually, Dixie Lynn Schreiber, as she was born in Muscatine, Iowa in 1967. Again, not a lot of reports that I could find before that. Her story kind of starts when her mother gets remarried in 1976. So she would be 8 years old? 9 years old, somewhere around there. So her mother marries this man named Frank Street. And Frank Street was a pedophile. He immediately began sexually abusing not only Dixie, but her 3 sisters as well. And later in police reports, and he did admit this, some neighborhood girls as well. So he starts abusing Dixie and her sisters in 1976. So in 1983, Dixie would be 16 years old. She meets a guy named Scott Shanahan, and she starts dating him. And this is also about the time that she says to Frank Street, "I've had enough. If you don't stop what you're doing, I'm going to go to the police and report you." Again, not really a whole lot of information if he stopped when she said that or what happened, but regardless, that is when Dixie decided, that's it, I can't take anymore, I am moving. And Dixie in 1984, she left the house and she moved to Defiance, Iowa. Hang on one second, I gotta throw these into the oven. Just gonna lightly toast those because I don't like them too crunchy, teeth. So, back to the story. She moves in with her boyfriend, Scott Shanahan's parents. Their names were Al and Beverly Fesser. Now, Al and Beverly Fesser did have some physical limitations, and so when Dixie moved in with them, she was going to take care of them and help them out. And actually, by all reports, it was a very loving relationship. It was better than what Dixie was experiencing at home. So she was super happy. The problem is Scott. So they're dating, and Scott is abusive. Scott is beating the crap out of her. He's verbally abusive. And again, this is one of those things that, we're not living in Dixie's life and we have no idea her thought process or what's going through her head. Remember, she has grown up basically all of her life being abused. So she starts dating Scott. She moves in with his parents, and he's just so abusive. And it goes so far that Scott even beats his mother, Beverly. Anytime Scott would get upset about something or something didn't go Scott's way, Scott would just beat the crap out of his mother and Dixie. Now, again, not finding any information or reports on Scott's father, but I'm assuming that he was infirm and not able to really do anything. But again, I'm not sure. That's an assumption on my part. So, the years go by. I mean, Dixie lived with them until Beverly died, I want to say in 1994. So she lived with them for quite a long time. And one thing that Beverly asked of onions, one thing that Beverly asked of Dixie, even though he beat the crap out of Beverly all the time, one thing that she did ask of Dixie was to always take care of Scott. So, hang on. So Dixie did make that promise to Beverly, and Beverly died. So Beverly died in 1994, and in 1995, Dixie and Scott get married. Now, the little known fact is that Dixie was the breadwinner of the family. Scott did not have a job. And in a sense, I'm kind of glossing over the beatings and stuff that Dixie got all the time, because it's just a given. I mean, Scott is an abuser. Scott beats her at the drop of a hat. And as time goes on, the abuse is just getting worse and worse and worse. So they get married in 1995, and in 1996, Dixie gets pregnant. Scott is just furious. Scott is worried. You know, how is this going to affect Dixie being able to work? Dixie's the breadwinner. I don't work. And, you know, I'm not going to watch a kid. So Scott beat Dixie so bad, and he was screaming at her that he was going to, well, first of all, he wanted her to get an abortion, and she refused. And then he beat her so bad, screaming at her, that he was going to get rid of that baby one way or another. He did not. Dixie successfully carried the pregnancy and gave birth to their son Zachary in 1997. The same procedure was completed again in 1998 when she got pregnant with their daughter Ashley. Now, Dixie has left Scott numerous times, and she always went back to him because she said, I made a promise to his mother, Beverly, that I would always take care of him. And I don't want my children to grow up without a father. I know some of you will be banging your head on the wall going, what? But again, we don't know what was in her heart or her mind at this time. This was her reality that she was living. So, Dixie only called the police on Scott on 3 occasions. And this was over many, many, many years. The first time that Dixie called the police on Scott was in May of 1997. So she had just had their son, and they were having an argument, and Scott punched her in the face and bashed her head into a windshield and stated that he was going to take Zachary away from her, and she would never see Zachary again. So she did call the police and report it. Now, Scott did plead guilty, and he got 30 days. He got a suspended sentence because apparently he was in jail awaiting trial and all of this, so he only ended up spending 28 days in jail. The next time that she called the police was in September of 1997. Dixie was pregnant again, and he was beating her, and she was afraid that she was going to lose the baby. He beat her with a metal pipe around her head. I mean, he caused her ears to bleed, and he was trying, because she had told him she was pregnant again, and he was trying to get her to have a miscarriage. And so she called the police again, and he was arrested. He pleaded guilty, and he got 2 years in the pen, in the state pen. Wow, this is great. She's got 2-year break. Okay. She goes back to him, and they continue on. So in October of 2000, once again, Scott goes on a rampage, and he beats her, and she's like, you know, I can't. And so she flees and goes to Texas. So this was in 2000, when October of 2000, when he beats her for the last time, and she's like, I can't take this anymore. So she takes the children. She goes to Texas. One of her sisters lived in Texas, and she stayed there until 2001. Now, the problem is, because she never came back and testified against Scott, all charges were dropped against him. And even though Scott was not supposed to contact her, he did. I mean, he was just constantly contacting her. I'll change, I'm sorry, I'll go to counseling, I'll do whatever I have to do to keep our marriage together. And again, this was a pattern. Every time she would leave, that he would get her to come back, and he would go to counseling for a while, and everything would be better, but then the beatings would start again, and they were really severe, and they seemed to get worse every single time. So she's gone, she's in Texas, he's calling her, he's begging, he's pleading, and then he goes to Texas, and he tells her, I am going to kill myself if you don't come back to me. And so she goes back to him. She goes back to Defiance, and now they're back together. So this is now August of 2002, and Dixie is pregnant again. Scott goes off the rails because, you know, he's got 2 kids that he doesn't want, and now there's a 3rd on the way. So he's beating her, I mean, to the point that it's ridiculous. He goes out to his car, he gets a shotgun, and he comes in, he's grabbing her by her hair, she tries to leave, he's dragging her around by her hair, and he takes the shotgun, he loads it, and one thing that was kind of weird was he loaded it with 2 different shotgun shells, which, you know, maybe he had a box of shotgun shells and he just went over and grabbed 2 and loaded them up. But, and I bring this up for a reason, which I will pick up in a minute. So he beats her. I mean, and there's just, I don't have enough time in the day to tell you about all of the beatings that this woman had. She was beat on the top of the head with his cowboy boot, the heel of his cowboy boot. He had poked her in the eye and made her eye bleed. He threw her down the stairs and she chipped a tooth, which in court, she still had this chipped tooth. He tied her up in a basement and left her for 2 days, telling her that no one would miss her. Wouldn't let her use the bathroom while she was down there. Her friends would, he would tell them she's lousy in bed and maybe you could help teach her how to be better. She's worthless, she's useless. Now remember, she's the breadwinner in the family. So, this is all of the stuff that he's doing. So it's the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the psychological abuse. So, going back now, he beats her really bad and he gets a 12-gauge shotgun and he comes in and he sticks it in her face and tells her, "I'm going to kill you." Then, and now this is where the reports vary, but she said he went into the bedroom and he said he was going to watch TV and lay down a little bit. He took all of the phone cords in the house so that no one could make a phone call. He goes into the bedroom and Dixie said to herself, I'm gonna die today, so I have to try something. And so she goes into the bedroom. She needs to use the phone and the only working phone is in the bedroom. So she goes in there and she said that he was laying on the bed and he got up and started coming toward her. So I know what you're thinking right now. Oh my God, he finally killed her. But did he? No. Dixie was able to get the shotgun first, shot him, and killed him. So her main purpose for going into the bedroom was to call the police. Did she call the police? No. Dixie did not call the police. Dixie, after she shot her husband, Scott, went outside and sat in a chair for a little while outside the bedroom and I guess was thinking about what she had done. And she was waiting for her daughter to come home from school. Not sure where her son was. I'm assuming he was at school too. So she decided that the best course of action would be to take the gun, hide it in the children's closet, close the door, put a towel under the door, and again, this was, I want to say that this was in October, so, in Iowa, so a little bit cold, and she did open the window in the bedroom, close the bedroom door, put a towel, grabbed some of the air fresheners and kind of hung them around the door, locked the door, and left Scott there for 14 months. Yeah, 14 months. I guess because it was winter and she had opened the window a little bit, there was no smell of the body. About 6 months into this, the police did come to her house because his friends started questioning, "Where's Scott? What happened to Scott? This is weird. This is strange." She had been telling everyone he left town. He couldn't take it anymore and he left town. And so the problem with that is when someone leaves town, there's always a trace of them leaving town. And there's no trace of him leaving town. He didn't take his car. He didn't take any of his stuff. She sold his car. She sold his tools that he had in the garage. She's forging his signature on the bank account. So she's doing all of these things because, of course, he's not there. But anytime anybody would ask, she would say, nope, he left. You couldn't take it anymore. He's gone. His friends start getting suspicious, and they called the police, and they said something happened, and I'm sure something happened in that house. And so the police go over about 6 months after she had killed him, and they come inside. They don't smell anything, so and they don't see the towel under the door, all of the air fresheners around the door. So they were like, okay, you know, we don't see anything wrong. She's saying that he left, he's gone, but he calls all the time because remember, she's pregnant. And so she's telling them he'll call to check up on me, but he'll call and he'll hang up. You know, he just wants to know that I'm answering the phone. So the police go back and they're like, you know, we didn't see anything, but his friends keep on and keep on. And so the police start doing some more digging. So finally, about 14 months after she kills her husband, the police come back and they have a search warrant. They're looking for blood, hair, anything that they can find. And they come back and they said, okay, we're gonna search your house. We just wanna make sure that nothing happened to your husband. And they asked her to leave the house. So she went over to a friend's house. The children were at school. And so the police walk into the house and they see the bedroom door, and it's got a towel stuffed under it. It's got air freshener around it. I mean, that's kind of a flag, don't you think? What would you think if you walked into someone's house, there's a towel stuffed under the door and a bunch of air freshener hanging around the door? Would you be like, oh, that's a cool decoration? Anyway, just curious. And so they go over and the door was locked, and break the door open and they find Scott inside. They document all of this and they note that Scott is in the bed. He's wearing his underwear. He's laying on his side. There is a TV remote near him, and he is partially decomposed. He is partially skeletonized, and he is partially mummified. And they take pictures, and of course they note his position, which was, like I said, laying on his side. One arm is underneath the pillow under his head. He's got a pillow between his legs, and he was shot in the back of the head. Now this contradicts the statement that Dixie later gives, that she went into the bedroom and he got off the bed and he started charging her, and in fear of her life, she grabs the gun and she shoots him. So this totally is a different story. They arrest Dixie and they charge her with first-degree murder. They go to trial. It wasn't necessarily a long trial, but it was a very intense trial, and Dixie was found guilty on a lesser charge of second-degree murder because they brought up all of the abuse that Dixie had gone through. And now remember, she had called the police 3 different times, and they did have photos of her injuries, black eyes, bleeding from her ears, all different kinds of things. So I think the jury did take that into consideration, and they charged her on a lesser charge of second-degree murder. However, she got sentenced to 50 years in jail with a minimum of 35 years time served. Now, so she was convicted in 2004. In 2007, in January of 2007, one of the last acts of the governor, Tom Vilsack, he did not pardon her, but he reduced her sentence to 10 years. So her sentence is now reduced to 10 years that she can be eligible for parole. Now, she did not get parole. She was trying to get parole, but she did not get parole. By the way, these are some tomatoes from my garden. I don't have any other tomatoes, which normally I would use a bigger tomato. But... So she did not get parole, but not for lack of trying. So she did in 2018 get a work release. So that's, that's a pretty big thing. So she still lives at the prison, but she is able to leave and go to work. Now, and aside from all of this, so going back now to the time that she killed her husband, about 9 months after she killed her husband, and remember, she was pregnant and had just given birth to another baby girl. I believe she named her Brittany. She met another man. And I don't remember his first name, but his last name was Duty. And she starts dating Mr. Duty. And he would go over to the house, and during trial, he would say, yes, I was at the house. I never smelled anything. She had the bedroom door locked. She told me that a lot of bad stuff had happened in that room, and she keeps it locked. She cannot deal with it. And so I respected her wishes. And so he stood by her during the trial, and they actually got married right before she was sentenced. So she goes to jail, they're married, and I want to say his name is Ron, but I'll just say Mr. Duty because I'm not 100% certain. So where does Mr. Duty now go and live? But in the house that she killed Scott in, because I guess that's still her house. So he's living there, she's in prison. He did try to get the children. He applied for custody of the children, and the judge said, no, you've known them for like half a minute, and you do have a criminal record, so you are not going to get the children. So the judge gave custody of the 3 children, Zachary, Ashley, and I believe Brittany, to her sister that lived in Texas. When asked, because now fast forward, she is on a work release, and if she does okay on that, then the work release program will go back to the parole board and say that she's been doing this great job, and maybe she will be up for parole. So when asked, they said, are you going to go back and get your children? And she did say no, because she didn't want to disrupt the children's life any more than it had already been disrupted. That is who they know as their mother now. The sister does bring the children to visit her, but she felt that it would be too traumatic for the children to now come back. They also asked her if she would have a problem going back to the house that she killed her husband Scott in, where her new husband lives. And she said, no, I won't have a problem going back to that house. I'll just avoid that bedroom. So that is the story of Dixie Lynn Shanahan, now Duty. So what do you think? Do you think she was justified in doing what she did?
Quiet.
I have a cat. I have 2 cats. Do you think she was justified in what she did? And again, I don't judge people. You know, people have to live their own life. They have to live their own truth. They have to live with their own reality. But I'm just interested in what you have to say. So please let me know. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time.